Imagine a world sculpted by passion and precision, where every turn tells a story. In this episode, we dive into the heart of Shrivatsa Somany's racing journey, fueled by a deep love for Sally, his Porsche Cayman, a tribute to a cinematic icon. Join us as Shrivatsa unveils the art behind each custom tweak, from the finesse of advanced suspension to the roar of a finely tuned engine. These aren't just modifications, they are extensions of his quest for perfection. The story isn't about crossing the finish line, it's about the soul that drives the machine to victory.
When the M3 was coming out, dude, I looked at it and I swear my wife is going to watch this and she is going to beat me over the head. Because she said, and rightfully so, she like, you can't get attached to every single car you own, man. Like at some point you have to F80 come out. Dude, say what you want. That car looks like $1 million.
It does.
And looks like nothing at the same time. Right? The M2, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people prefer the F82.
Yeah.
I think the F80 is a much nicer looking car. Like those rear haunches where the M design was just like shit. We widened the track so much.
Yeah.
Like अब पीछे में दरवाजा भी है. Like यार अब ये fender arches को कैसे करें? Just cut it. I mean, it is incredibly lazy, and that's the charm of it.
Yeah. So finally, Mr. Somany, I think we finally got the time, you got the time to spend with me and have this discussion
Yeah.
over.
Happy to have it. I think we've already been talking a lot
Yeah.
last few times we've met, but that's typical, right?
That's very typical, and I must say you're very famous in the community, man. I think I was shooting with Laksha the other day, then I've shot with Pratik, I've shot with Karan. I think you're on everybody's tongue at this moment. What makes you so special? When you ask you this.
I guess I'm just a genuinely nice guy. You see. No, I'm kidding.
No,
No, I think it's just become one community, right? Like it's all these people you mentioned are like, good friends. Some more on a personal level also, but some more on like, okay, when we meet at the events, then we that support system and all that which is there. So I think it's that. Also, I've definitely not been at it as long as like Malik and Kabir and all these guys.
I'm sure.
Lakshay, you, since we've caught up and understood, like not from that era, so to speak. I remember when I met Malik. Malik was my entrant into this field, so to speak.
Oh, okay. And when was this?
This was, when was it? The BMW के जो सबसे पहले जो that paid BMW M event which had happened with the F80s and the F87s and all. This was, I want to say, somewhere around 2012, 2013, a while ago.
So you've been in the scene for quite some time, it seems.
Yeah, but not as long. I'll explain why I feel that way and on multiple fronts why I feel that way. So I remember I was in the cohort with Kabir and Akshay Jain.
Okay.
And Karan Malik.
Okay.
Right? And I remember we did the M event. I was alone in the car. I was with another person from the south, Aditya Prabhu. I remember I met him again some time ago. Anyway, we met and then, these guys were just sitting, just talking about, coming on track and all that stuff. So I just asked him like, how do you do this? When do you do this? Because I had just come back from the US in 2012. Then I left again in 2013 for 2 years. But so I come back and like, how do you guys do this? Maybe you know what? This may be after this may be 2015 onwards. I don't know. Malik will tell you. And I was like, how do you guys do this? When do you guys do this? So that was my first inkling of how accepting this community is. Normally, someone who's just come back from the US, like I wasn't in the Indian school system from like class 6 onwards.
Okay.
So wasn't as, I didn't have a friends community over here, so to speak.
Sure. Okay.
And I was in the American schools, a lot of my friends left. Most of my friends left.
Yeah.
So, I was also maybe reserved. That was more on my end, but it was like an open-armed embrace with like Prithvi, with Malik, like mainly Malik,
Yeah.
where it was like, yeah, this is when we meet. Come for our track day. Yeah, this was definitely post my postgrad. So I had then just bought my first car, which was I had a blue Volvo V40, the R design.
Okay.
And I had brought that, and these guys were like super, super, super welcoming.
Okay.
Super helpful. Obviously, I had driven on the track before, but not like that. Not ki like khud ki gaadi chalai.
Okay.
And
You're talking about the States, are you?
no, I'm talking here on BIC.
Okay. Acha, the BMW
Yeah, I'm
days.
talking about
Okay.
BIC only. When I had BMW, I met them. I asked them कि कैसे करते हो तुम लोग? And the thing is, maybe this is how I also still feel. Sometimes people come and just ask you कि यार मुझे भी करना है, and you don't know if it's just some guy who just wants to drive fast. But the thing is, there was a good lesson learned that day, which I still do today, where it's like if somebody asks like how do you do it, my answer is always ready कि आ जाओ, because that's how I was treated by what I feel like the progenitors of this culture. They all started separately, but eventually came together, and that was the first, so to speak, coagulation of this
Sure.
culture. And
Sure.
then the second round, where I would say was me who came in.
Sure.
And very welcoming, and that's how I had met them.
Okay.
And I also forgot the first question that you asked me.
That's okay. That's very normal. So, but in nonetheless, so now that actually brings me to one of another question I was wanting to ask you. That when you came in with the Volvo V40, what was it like for you? I mean, probably that was the first time or the second time you were driving on track, or this was?
I'd driven on track
Okay.
before, but
Okay.
first time that I'd properly done it, like
Okay.
ek do baar pehle doesn't really count.
Okay.
This is the first time I went on seriously कि कुछ करना है.
Okay.
Need to be faster, set a time. I'd still done karting and stuff back in my life also.
Okay.
Not professionally.
Understood.
But somewhere like, I did it enough to want to care to set a good time.
But you were still competitive, basically. Yeah.
So I came back to do it, and that's the mindset I came with.
Okay.
But I was an idiot. Like an idiot to another level. I remember Prithvi had said, ki, listen, I know it was a diesel V40, 177 some odd horsepower, whatever, enough actually.
Yeah.
Had a blast with it.
Okay.
Prithvi was like, listen, take the oil cap off
Huh.
to help the car cool down.
Huh.
Now, I don't know if it was one of those Prithvi-isms or not. I didn't know any better at that time. Opened the dicky. Opened the bonnet, took the thing off, garam laga. So I didn't realize that it was properly spring-loaded. Right?
Okay.
How many times have I taken an oil cap off at this time?
Sure.
Not very much. तो मैं उसको उतारने, maybe not spring-loaded, it was just hot because of the pressure. फटी की like मेरा ये हाथ जलने वाला है. So I went like this thing bounced off, went into the thing, and I was like, shit. I was waiting outside BSC for a truck to come to take me home because I couldn't get to it.
Oh my
Like
God.
stupid things like that I've done. I had no idea how to treat a car when you are pushing it to the limit.
Right.
Right?
Huh.
That's how raw I was in terms of the innards of a car.
Okay.
That's why I say now I remember your first question also. That's why I say for me, Malik and these guys are a lot more on the, to me, like one level above in terms of who I look up to.
Okay.
Malik, Titus, may forget a few names here or there. Prithvi, to a certain extent also Bharat, who I've never worked with, but like I've grown up seeing him, like,
course.
being obsessed with cars, him and my chacha as well.
Of course.
So these are the people who were a lot more into cars as far as I was concerned.
Okay.
I was into cars from a perspective that I loved them and I was passionate about them, but
Okay.
unlocked a new level, so to speak, by coming into this culture. US mein I did a couple of autocrosses.
Okay.
I had a Saab 900, 1999 Saab 900 SE.
Okay.
This was in 2009 that
Okay.
I had this car.
Okay.
Brilliant car. Well, not brilliant at autocross.
Okay.
But कर ली उसने.
It was a hatch. Nahi.
What was it actually? No, it was a sedan, but it was a hatchish shape.
Okay.
kind of like what you would call the Superb. What would you call it? A sedan or a hatch?
Understood.
Like that.
Sedan, yeah.
It was awesome. It was a turbocharged engine. It had a little boost meter also on it.
Oh, okay.
And it had Saab's. The key was here.
Uh-huh.
And brilliant little car. So
Okay.
it was fun doing autocross,
Okay.
but I only did like 2-3 because where I was, it wasn't too much, and I was like super busy with like college and
Okay.
stuff. So
Okay.
उतना भी time नहीं मिलता था.
Understandable.
And masters, I had no time to do
Understood.
autocross and stuff.
Understandable. Understandable. So once you came back to India, that is when, and you did a few track days, and then, you know, then I think that is when it got serious for you that now I want to take this up and get competitive with it.
Yeah, it's always a hobby and it's going to remain a hobby. A lot of these
course.
guys are a lot more serious. Like, for example, take Achintya, right? They're a lot more serious about it. With it, like these guys are competing abroad. I guess there's levels to a hobby. Maybe they also do treat it as a hobby beyond a point. Achintya maybe more so. Maybe it's a proper line of work for him, I think.
Yeah.
You know, for Vidit, it's a very, very serious hobby. For Malik, it's that much more than mine. It's more about, I think with any kind of hobby, you see people who are at multiple levels, right? And you see कि मुझे कहाँ जाना है? And what I feel is enough for me, my time at this particular time. So I found two of these passions basically. One was cars and one was like weirdly building Legos, honestly, man.
Oh, okay.
Something that I've done from childhood.
Yeah.
That obviously these passions, but it's just about the time, the place, also with cars
Yeah.
and Lego, frankly.
Yeah.
The money to be able to take it up to a particular level. Now, as to what level you want to go to, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, for me, learning is fun. And I think building is fun. That's what I've always liked. Like, I did
Sure.
computer science not because I liked technology, it's because I liked building things. I've built Lego my whole life. So suddenly it was like, hey, now I can build this out. Like, everybody knows this shit is expensive.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't want to be the guy always, I mean, maybe you want, but I'm just saying, like, no judgment, but like, I didn't want to be the person asking my dad for money for like car parts.
Of course.
So never did that, never ended up. So
I mean, yeah, you do reach a tipping point. After a point of time, you yourself are like, you know, what the hell, dude? I just can't keep asking.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, why?
Yeah.
So I always ask for Legos. I had no problem asking for Legos.
So tell us about how you've, you know, sort of converted your passion for Legos into real machines. I believe because you've had a very good fleet of cars, starting from the M3, then the Cayenne, and now I think the M3 is no longer with you. It's now the
No,
M2.
the M3 is still with me.
Oh, it's still there. You haven't sold it yet. Great.
Not yet. Still, I'll tell you, I digress, but the other day I was parking the M3 because we're between houses right now.
Okay.
So instead of living together as a family, which we'll get into, now we're living 3 different places close to each other, right?
Okay.
And we're all in rentals. So like now the M3 with the M2 when it came, it was taking up a bit of space. So I asked my brother, मैं वहाँ park कर दूँ कि नहीं, right? He was like, no problem, please park it at my place. I was driving the M2 into my house and the M3 was coming out. Dude, I looked at it and I swear my wife is going to watch this and she is going to beat me over the head. Because she said, and rightfully so, she like, you can't get attached to every single car you own, man. Like at some point you have to get rid of it. Because you have to. This, like, yes, there are levels of attachment. Like this, I'm never going to get rid of. But I mean, let it get junked. Then maybe I'll see what I have to
Probably.
do. But जब तक इसमें जाना है, तब तक मैं चला रहा हूँ इसको. ठीक है. I saw the F80 come out. Dude, say what you want. That car looks like $1 million.
It does.
And looks like nothing at the same time. Right? The M2, as much as like, it still turns a few heads.
Yeah.
The M3 didn't turn a single head unless somebody knew.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, yeah, it is being sold. Somany, don't worry.
Yeah.
But I will feel very bad that once it goes, that's why I'm trying to find someone who I know can buy it.
So now that, you know, you were talking about the M3 and rightly said there is that sexiness,
Yeah.
you know,
but
about
it's
it.
being sold. I don't want to digress too much from the question. I tend to do that. And so with what was the question again? I'm telling you, dude, I digress and I have a terrible
That's okay.
memory.
So, no, I was asking about, you know, we were talking about how you converted your passion for
Yes,
Legos and building cars. You tried and applied that same mentality
don't
with your
think-
actual cars.
I don't think I've really built a car yet.
Okay. Okay.
It
M3 was
really
bone
with
stock?
This, yeah.
Okay.
It was always bought for a year. That was an itch that really needed scratching.
Sure. Sure.
And I scratched it.
Okay.
And the M2, it was like a gateway to the M2 where I was like, okay, now it's, say what you want, it's still a 10-year-old car. And I think it's a brilliant 10-year-old car. But it was my daily. Now, as a daily, it was a bit harsh. It was a bit old.
Yeah.
Certain modern technologies that you would want were not there. Costly. So there are little things like that. So that's why I was like, and it's a good time to sell it. I actually wanted to convert it to the track
Okay.
for the most part.
Then why didn't you?
Because I want to pour more money into this.
Fair
But this has, yes, that's much faster for BIC. But this is a lot more fun.
Okay. Okay.
And the M2's there.
Yeah.
It's manual, but let's see.
And like you were talking about the M3, you know what? It reminded me of a very famous saying that a lot of one of my 4G friends always says, the beauty lies in the eyes of not the beholder, but the beer holder.
Yeah.
So if you are the one, you who understands the value and who understands the so-called oomph and sexiness of the M3, the F80 that you have, and it does not really turn heads, but you know what that means.
Yeah, it's very subjective, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people prefer the F82.
Yeah.
I think the F80 is a much nicer looking car. Like those rear haunches where the M design was just like, shit, we widened the track so much.
Yeah.
Like अब पीछे में दरवाजा भी है. Like यार अब ये fender arches को कैसे करें? Just cut it. I mean, it is incredibly lazy, and that's the charm of it.
Yeah.
It's practically a 3 Series shell at this point, because the underbody is nothing like a 3 Series, right? They've just gone to town on it.
Yeah. Right.
And I love that about that. And that's generally what I've always felt with most things in my life. It's about the imperfections that really make it
Yeah.
charming.
Sure.
Same goes with Legos. Like, you every time, like, okay, I always build one as it's supposed to be built.
Yeah.
But then one thing breaks, one thing yellows over time. Like, the white Legos, they tend to yellow over time. There's a beauty in that imperfection. Like, something's weathered, something looks like it's been used, something looks like it's been loved. So that...
But then tell me one thing. I mean, it's actually not because now that you possess this machine and you've done decent amount of works on this, can you walk us through what all works have you done on this? How did it come to you, and then what did you observe, and then what all did you stomp on?
How it was 2017. It was. I mean, it's a brilliant chassis to begin with.
Sure, of course.
The choice of this was also because a mid-engine car is always the perfect balance. And I enjoy balance more than outright performance, right? And that reflects... Actually, I would say it doesn't reflect in my driving style. My driving style is evolved with this in mind. So it started off with a brilliant platform to begin with, right? Like, no complaints. I mean, it's already at a very high level for what I've built it for. Then... obviously the first thing to do was, like, the car came, so stock the car had about 300 horsepower.
Okay.
With the sports chrono pack, it's about, I think it was 315. The 2017 model was about 315 horsepower. And the first thing obviously we did was put a stage 1 tune on it.
Okay.
Coincidentally, that's the first time I had spoken to Akshay.
Okay.
I had no idea about Akshay. Looked up like tunes, found the quantum tuning website, found the number there, contacted him, and reached there. And this was little over 7 years ago.
But tell me one thing, like, considering it came with 300 horses under the hood, under the bonnet, the engine is not really under the bonnet, but you would have done a few events and probably a few track days, and then you would have realized that I need to tune it. So what was that? When was it? Or you just straight up just decided to tune it?
No. I tuned it after almost a year and a half.
Okay. Because I can presume that the moment you started driving this, it would have already been like a blow in your face.
It was. I mean, coming from the V40, it was like a lot faster than I've.
Of course.
Like, as a car that you owned, driven faster cars in this enough of times, but not one that you own, that you drive every day.
Okay.
That's a different feeling altogether.
Okay.
So it had enough horsepower.
Yeah.
I did my first autocross with that. It was a Maruti Suzuki ka Auto Pre.
Sure.
in what I think is the go-karting track of BIC.
Okay.
That gravelly mess that it
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
like
yeah,
wo
yeah,
toota
yeah.
poota, but
Yeah.
it was super fun. Super fun. I was terrible at it, but did my first autocross with it stock. Then, which was already like, I think my first autocross was like November. I remember it was like winter time.
Okay.
Car came in February, January.
Mm-hmm.
Did that. It was great. Whatever. Um I then, I think somewhere around about a year and a half later from
Okay.
purchase, I went to Akshay and I was like, now it's, I want to, let's see what I can do. That itch of building something. So like every internal BMW fan is like, what does this car have? A downpipe. So first thing I went was, Akshay was like, get a downpipe. Oh wait, no, actually I went only for the first stage 1 tune. I didn't have a downpipe in the beginning.
Okay.
That was some 380 odd horsepower. I think I picked Akshay's brain like crazy. At this point, I didn't know him. Okay.
Akshay's
I was
used to
just
it.
another. Yeah, he's used to it, and he's a sweetheart, right?
Huh.
Because he's just so again
Yeah.
part of that welcoming community that we started with, and like frightfully honest, honestly, at this point where he was like, no, this is what you should do, this is how it'll be, this is how much it'll cost, this, everything was like laid out, like how I prefer working with people, right? And we tuned it. Obviously, the car felt a lot faster. It was like 100 more Newton meters of torque. Again, with the turbocharged engine, comes a lot lower, right? Felt a lot faster. It was great. Again, then I did a couple of track days on it.
Okay.
Actually, I think I did a track day. Also, I did a track day when it was stock.
Okay.
On those shitty Pirelli P0s.
Okay.
After that, then I tuned it and all that, and then did another track day. Then did couple of more autocrosses.
Okay. Okay.
Rohit used to have those autocrosses. I forget what they were called. X Factor, I think.
Okay.
Huh.
Okay.
That used to be on the BIC thing, but with like, cordoned off chicanes and apexes made on BIC. Wo tha, and then I think Lakshay had also just started with BND around that time.
Ah, okay.
I want to say 2019,
Okay.
maybe.
Probably.
Early 2019. And that's when I really felt like it was almost like go-karting in a car. So I felt like this is something I really want to do, which is autocross. BIC was something I never really cared for. Frankly, I still don't do.
Okay.
It's too large of a track. It's too heavy on the cars. And I still don't have a dedicated track car.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just the way I am, where I don't like my brakes feeling so much more different on a daily car after a track day.
Sure.
Correct.
So. And then when did you plan to, when did you decide to upgrade the suspension and the brakes? I mean,
that was very recent actually. So then the next thing we did actually was put a stage 2 tune on it.
Oh, okay.
Right. So now it's, if I remember correctly, like we dynoed it at Akshay's. It's about 402 some horsepower at crank.
Okay.
And if I again remember correctly, about 550 Newton meters.
Okay.
So it's, to me at this point, it's quick enough.
Yeah.
Any more, and you'll be now changing turbos and all that, and then it's already got a decent amount of turbo lag.
Yeah.
But not that much.
Yeah.
Again, if I can push this to 450 horsepower easy, but then
Correct.
I'll lose the bottom end, which will completely cost me time and fun in autocross, right? So first we did the stage 2 tune. Car felt absolutely fast enough at this point.
Do you think past these figures of stage 2, what you just mentioned, anything more you do will actually end up affecting the longevity of the vehicle?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
It will. That's how Akshay had put it.
Okay.
That, at this point your car is extremely reliable.
Okay.
Touch wood. Please don't break.
Yeah. Minus the plastics.
Hashtag just VAG things, man. I mean,
Sure.
Say whatever you want. It doesn't have a single VAG button at the end of the day, but it has all the stupid idiosyncrasies, the sagging roof, the door cards peeling off, freaking indicator cracking. I mean, again, the imperfections are the charm.
Yeah.
Yes, you get them fixed.
True.
But if it didn't have these issues, then it would be like boring.
These are like band-aids.
Yeah.
Just to make you feel good.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
copium. Then we did the stage 2. Drove on that a lot. Did a lot of events on that.
Okay.
Few track days. And I'll get to why track days came to a grinding halt at one point.
Okay. Sure.
One of the questions you had told me as to what was something you overcame. That was fun.
Yeah.
So did a few track days, did a lot of autocrosses. At this point, I feel the car had become something where now it was like, see, there's two things you can do. Either you just build it for the sake of building it, or you build it to make yourself better.
Yeah.
So I don't think I had maximized the car in any way in its old chassis. By the time I'd done the stage 1, stage 2, that was just the itch ki banana hai. But once we made it, I was like, now I want to leave it like this. Now I want to get up to the level of this car. And I remember with the stage 2 tune, the first race was that Laksha had done. Full Josh mein, they came, interviewed me also and all that, and Malik, that they were going to pit against each other. I'm like, this seems like interesting as a format, although the race was itself was a good format.
Yeah.
Might actually be good now, will it become more popular? It'll be, maybe you should bring that back.
Yeah.
I actually was almost 2/10, maybe more, which is an eternity, frankly. Especially given the delta between the Jazz and this. To be fair, it's not as big of a delta when it comes to autocross as you would think, like on track. But it's Karan at the end of the day, right? And then me in this, and I should have won, frankly, but I wasn't good enough.
Okay.
Frankly, I wasn't good enough.
Okay.
Despite having how both Karan and I joke that this is a cheat code. This car is a literal cheat code.
Okay.
Like that.
For autocross.
पुराने games में वो double speed वाला cheat code होता था.
हाँ.
This is a cheat code. It's ridiculous. And yet, so that was really fun for me because I enjoy losing because it pushes me to become better. So I wanted to become better in terms of I am definitely the fact that I'm losing to a car that is quote unquote slower, right? Brilliant in its own right. It's not even in the same class, frankly, it shouldn't be. Again, with your podcast with Karan, like it's just dumb rules that, put cars into other places. That ideally should not be in the same class as this. So, but considering we were still competing and I was still slower, I was slower than Achintya, I was slower than in what should be a much faster machine by virtue of what it is. It made me feel I am nowhere close to the limit of this car.
Okay.
I'm not close to the limit of what I can do. So I need to now stop building this and get to these limits.
Yeah.
And it's been 19 to 23. It's been 3. All COVID तो ज़्यादा हुआ नहीं. तो मैं 3 साल बोल रहा हूँ of like actually competing and doing a lot. 3 years I didn't touch the car.
Oh, okay. Why?
It took me 3 years to get to a point where I was actually maximizing it, where I was like now hitting those consistent times. Each autocross track is different, but I know I would get 2-3 seconds faster than my initial time, and then I would completely plateau.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not good enough, and maybe I won't be for a while till maybe 2 years later. If I revert to the old suspension, I'll be faster by a second or two. But at that point, I had peaked where I was like hitting those times where I was like within 2/10 of my top time. And my top times were like, if it was like a 1 minute 21, like 1:21.8, 1:21.7, 1:21.6, 1:29. I was within that range. And I would hit that and I would stay there the whole day. And then night time would come and then that would slip by a second because I couldn't see much.
Yeah.
That's when I started realizing. In fact, Karan was someone who pushed me as well, and Akshay, they were like, do it. Now, take the next step. Get a suspension. That's the next logical step. Brakes, obviously, what did I do? I have OEM rotors. I have RPX pads because, again, I want to stop fast. Brilliant setup.
Correct.
I think Porsche OEM rotors are superb. As you can probably see, they're not very large brakes. Car is also some 330, 40 kg.
Yeah.
It's not heavy, but it's fast. Even at 400 horsepower, it's fast. But it stops on a dime. These RPX rotors pads are phenomenal.
What's the weight on the car? Total weight?
1340, 1350 ऐसी कुछ.
Wow.
Not heavy.
Okay.
Curb weight. And so brakes haven't done anything, frankly, and I don't need to. I'm very happy with the way they are.
Yeah, man. I mean, this thing stops like how? I mean, that day you were
Yeah.
showing it to me. Yeah. Of
So it
course.
stops.
Okay.
And so brakes not much.
Huh.
Then did the suspension abhi,
Huh.
Jan.
Okay.
A few months ago. I've done one event with this suspension. And obviously accounting for somebody else also being off their game, so to speak. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. So I'll build that in, giving benefit of the doubt as to where it was. I remember the previous autocross that I did, which was beginning of, I think it was like October last year.
Okay.
The first BND of this season, so to speak. There's this guy, Anush. He has a... Lakshay was mentioning the KTM go-kart, right?
Yeah. Correct.
I mean, that thing is it's blisteringly fast,
Okay.
right?